Dirtle Magic. Thank you for tuning in to Dirtle Magic. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell if you like the content you see here today, and leave a like and share the video with someone you might think is interested. Leaving those likes really helps us out, but another way to help us out is by using our TCG Player affiliate link below. If you're looking for singles, sealed product, or gaming accessories, please consider using our link to support the channel. We also have some playmats at inkgaming.com. Go ahead and hit the link in the description to check those out. Alright, let's grab some spells and dirtle with some magic. Hello and welcome back to Dirtle Magic. Today we're playing some Feldon of the Third Path, reprinted on that time spiral sheet. Looking at our opening hand, one land doesn't quite cut it, so we will take that free mulligan. We have a new hand, a lot of colorless mana. We do have Myriad Landscape to go get some stuff though. We are like 1 mana short of getting to that obelisk. I think we can keep it, so let's go ahead and risk it. Our commander, 1 red for Legendary Human Artificer, 2/3. 2 red, tap, create a token that's a copy of target creature card in our graveyard, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. It gains haste, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Our first opponent, it looks like we're going last. That's unfortunate. Plays a forest, and there are Toski, Bearer of Secrets. 3 green for a legendary 1/1 squirrel. It can't be countered, it's indestructible. It attacks each combat fable, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Our next opponent with the plains into play is Inniaz the Gale Force. 3 blue for a legendary 4/4 Jin. Flying. 2 in Azorius. Attacking creatures with flying get 1/1 till end of turn. Notably, it doesn't say only you're attacking flying creatures. Whenever 3 or more creatures you control with flying attack, each player gains control of a non-land permanent of your choice controlled by a player to their right. That one could be slightly problematic. We'll have to wait and see. And our last opponent is Darien, King of Keldor. 4 white for a legendary 3/3 human soldier. Whenever you're dealt damage, you may create that many 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. Plains and Wayfarer's Bauble into play for them. Hey, there's a red source. Let's go ahead and play the Myriad Landscape, get it out of the way, and pass it off to our opponents. So I do have a disclaimer for this deck. I actually went back and found my old Feldon deck list that when I used to have it in paper from 5 or 6 years ago. So this is almost card for card, the exact same list from way back then. So it does not have like Underworld Breach in it. It doesn't have any of that stuff. The only card that I couldn't find for the deck to make it card for card was Flamekin Village. Instead, it has a high market. Reason being is we like to sacrifice some of our creatures to get them back into the graveyard, or just sacrifice those tokens towards the end of turn to gain some kind of benefit. Inniaz's turn, Talisman of Progress down for them after lane. Toski had a forest come into play, but they played no ramp. Followed by Judge's Familiar. So it is flying. You can also sacrifice it to carry an instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays 1. So essentially a Mana Tithe or a Force Spike on it. Over to Darien, we already have a land into play. Will they crack the Wayfarer's Bauble? They do. They'll go get a basic plains. Comes our turn, we get Hellkite Tyrant. Unfortunately, a very expensive card these days. Let's go ahead, play Darksteel Citadel. We don't have any 2-drops, so let's go ahead and pass it to our opponents. Over to Toski, we have a forest in play. And a Squirrel Nest. Aha. So it may be Squirrel Tribal, could be just like an on-flavor card. So basically, it makes the land able to generate squirrels. 1/1s in particular. Over to Inniaz, we have a land into play. I don't know how I feel about the commander. I kind of wish it let you choose either direction, but whatever works. Winged Words to the stack, cost 1 less if they control a creature with flying, they get to draw 2 cards. Watcher of the Spheres. Okay, so flying, this has a cost reduction for flyers. Whenever another creature with flying enters the battlefield under your control, it gets 1/1 till end of turn. Judge's Familiar on the attack, it's off into Toski. Damage is good, Toski down to 39. Over to Darien's turn, we have a land in play followed by a Ajani's Welcome. That will be very good. So with King Darien here, what you usually want to do, if no one can get through to you anyway, because white does some decent pillow forwarding, is have a Soul Sisters effect like a Ajani's Welcome or one of the Soul Sisters. There you go. Soul's Attendant coming down for them. And possibly deal damage to yourself if you can afford it by like Ancient Tomb, if you do use like Mana Crypt or something like that. That way you can still generate value, but you gain all that life back. Usually at a net positive, which is going to be happening with these 2 things here, the creature and the enchantment. We have followed by Anointed Priest as well. So whenever a token enters the battlefield, they'll gain 1 life. Plus, it can embalm to recur itself, so that's not too bad. So now, every time they create a token, they will gain 3 life. That is somewhat problematic. Comes our turn, we get that high market I talked about earlier. Let's play Mountain and crack the Myriad Landscape to go get some mountains. 2 mountains into play, and we'll pass it off to our opponents. Over to Toski. We have Toski, Bear of Secrets, coming down for that player. Soul's Attendant will trigger. Things get out of hand a little bit with that. Over to Inniaz. If they play a lot of flyers, it's going to be problematic for us. Although, the life gain over on Darien's side will be problematic for us anyway if we get Feldon going. So, usually the proper way to deal with a Darien deck is to basically just attack relentlessly. Especially if you can keep that commander off the field. A Maria Angel coming down for the Inniaz player. We have a couple triggers. Soul's Attendant we'll probably just yield to at this point. Watcher of the Spheres triggers, they'll get a 1/1 bonus. We have a landfall trigger. A Mary Shepherd will make a bird. We have an attack. Watcher of the Spheres off into the Darien player. I believe that's the appropriate response. Damage is good. Darien down to 42. We have Nomad Stadium. Tap to add white deals 1 damage to you. There's that self-damage thing. Threshold, sacrifice it, white and tap. You gain 4 life. Activate the ability only if you have 7 more cards in your graveyard. Comes to our turn, we get Hammerheim. It is a legendary land, and it taps to add red. Does not come into play tapped, which is nice. Let's go ahead and play the Unstable Obelisk. And then we'll use the Obelisk mana and our remaining lands to summon the Jolum Tome. And we'll pass it to our opponents. So Hammerheim is not a card you usually use because its other ability is tap target creature loses all land walk abilities until end of turn. But at the time I built my Feldon deck, my friend had a Thada Adel deck, and I would rather like to keep my artifacts. So I do actually keep this in Feldon as a foil against those kind of strategies, usually just Thada Adel. Over to Toski's turn. Will they go to combat anywhere? They do. It's off into us. Yeah, that makes sense. Going to get a little bit of extra card draw. Damage is good. We are down to 39, up to 1 commander damage. They will get to draw a card over on Toski's side. Notice they didn't play a land in their first main phase, so hopefully they got a land off that draw. Looks like they had a land regardless, so that is good. We have a Seedborn Muse coming down for Toski. Don't like seeing that card at all. Over to the Flyers, we have a landfall trigger. We get another bird into play. Toski creating a squirrel in response. Darien going to gain a lot of life. We need to maybe figure out a way to kill out Soul Sister. Unfortunately, we're not getting the removal in the deck, so not too much we can do about it just yet. We have Gravitational Shift out of the Inniaz player. Creatures with flying get 2-0. Creatures without flying get -2, -0. Sad face, although our Junk Driver will be fine. Our Dragons, of course, will be fine. Feldon, unfortunately, is going to be a 0-3. Although, we generally don't use him to attack. We have an attack, Watcher of the Spheres, and a Myria Angel. Alright, let's see. 1 to each player, okay. We'll be taking 3 from the Judge's Familiar. Damage is good. We are down to 36. Toski down to 34. Darien down to 40. Over to Darien's turn. Looks like they're tapping some mana. They deal 1 damage to themselves to play Cathar's Crusade. Uh-oh. We have a response. Squirrel. So Cathar Crusade changes the analysis a little bit here. So far, the squirrels are entirely neutered by Gravitational Shift. Cathar's Crusade will make Darien's things huge, and I've played against enough Darien deck to know that. However, I think if we let Darien and the Flyers go out a little bit, if the Flyers can like shift their attention, we'll be in a better spot. I don't know that I want to use the Unstable Obelisk just yet. Our turn does come around though, obviously, and a mountain, so let's go ahead and play. I think I do want to get down Feldon now. We do need something to start pitching our cards and drawing something else. We do have Jolum Tome, but it's a bit slow. Let's go ahead and summon our commander though. He does not have haste, so we do need to get him down a turn before we try to do anything anyway. We have a squirrel in response. Get out my lab. Alright, and then we'll go ahead and activate the Jolum Tome. We get Spawn of Thraxes. We will go ahead and put that in the graveyard for now, and we'll pass it off to our opponents. The thing about Feldon is you televise just about everything you're doing. So hopefully that will garner us both some support and some iron, kind of even it out. I also want to address, I didn't play Chandra's Flamecaller right there. because I'd want to wait maybe one more turn or so to see if I need to. I'd rather not burn out the entire board just yet. I want to see if politics are going to develop, like I said, between the Inniaz player and the Darien player. Toski has a full attack off into us. They won't deal any damage, so their ability to draw cards will not trigger. So perhaps they have some kind of instant they will be playing. Specifically, was it Return of the Wild Speaker could be good? We take no damage. We are still at 36. I was really expecting the Return of the Wild Speaker. Second Harvest. Search your library for up to X. Okay, I see now. Where X is the number of attack creatures you control. So they get X basic lands. That will be 5 and put them onto the battlefield tapped. Okay, makes sense now. Alright, the probably just rolled over. They all have pseudo vigilance. I mean, they should make a squirrel, I suppose. And yeah, squirrel army is go. There's a squirrel. We have Path to Exile on, yep, Seedborn Muse. That is always a worthy target of any exiling effect. So this will basically blow out Toski to force them to be completely defenseless for a turn. I don't think that really mattered at this point, but getting rid of Seedborn Muse is always fantastic, like I said. Yeah, that's it for Toski. Over to Inniaz's turn. We have another landfall trigger. That's another bird. Inniaz the Gale Force. Uh-oh. That's not good. I was really hoping they'd wait till the next turn, but I kind of figured that kind of stuff would be happening. And as the Gale Force will trigger, there are 5 flyers attacking. Okay, so they get to basically switch control some stuff to the right. Or from the right, rather. Well, I mean, they're probably going to get rid of our Feldon, which is problematic. So next turn, probably Chandra Flamecaller, blow the board. Yeah, there goes Feldon. Sad face. We get Cathar's Crusade, which is probably the better choice from the Darien player, because we can't really abuse it. What do they get? They get Toski, so they'd swap the commanders. That's a bit rude. Let's see where all this stuff is going. Alright, so we're taking 1 bird. Toski's taking a bird. Most of the damage, though, is going into Darien, all of the creatures proper. We have no blocks to assign. We'll be taking the 3. Damage is good everywhere. Toski Bearer of Secrets will trigger for the Inniaz player. They will draw 5 cards. We're down to 33, Darien down to 31, and Toski down to 31. It's unfortunate about that card draw. The board wipe next turn, well, next one of our turns anyway, would have been very good at trying to slow them down. The other problem I just realized is that Toski is indestructible. So we'd have to steal it somehow, and this deck doesn't really do that. Darien King of Keldor coming down. So now any amount of damage the Darien player takes will be converted into 3 times that life gain. So they'll be net positive 2 life for every 1 damage they take. So if they take 1, they'll gain 3, but 1 of it goes away because of damage. And they'll get out of hand really quick. So they're essentially, unless the Inniaz player has a removal. Ooh, Mages of the Wheel. That could be particularly good against, well, everybody. Depends what they have. Let's play High Market. And then let's do Chandra Flamecaller and just cool everything down a second here. We have a response, probably Counter Magic. It is Dovin's Veto. That's a bit on flavor. A bit too on flavor. But nothing we can do about it. Alright, we'll just go ahead and activate the Jom Tome then. We get a sad robot. We can discard that for now, I think. And we'll have to pass it off there. Over to Toski's turn. Unfortunately, I don't know that the deck will run so well without the commander, but we'll see. I've only faced one of these decks before. Boom pile. Flip a coin. If you win the flip, destroy all non-land permanents. Well, that's interesting. I kind of hope they win the flip. We would lose the Jom Tome and the Obelisk, but we have a lot less to lose than just about everyone else, so it's not too bad. Unfortunately, they still don't get Toski back with it. Toski being indestructible is usually a good thing, but it's really nipping them in the butt this game. Barrier Breach. Exile up to 3 target enchantments. Oh, well, there you go. Ajani's Presence, Cathar's Crusade, and Gravitational Shift. Yep, they all hit the exile bin. We have a full attack. Where is it going? Off into the Inniaz player. Yeah, they've quickly become the arch enemy. Although, we'll have to keep an eye out on Darien. Darien decks can come back really well if you don't keep pressure on them, so you gotta be careful. Damage is good against the Inniaz player, down to 31. We have Boompile activation. Let's see if they win the flip. Oh, they win the flip. Nice. Alright, so we still have 4 cards in hand, plus a Magus. So the recovery's not too bad. Let's put Feldon back in the command zone. Like I said, no Underworld Breach in this deck, so there's no way to get that creature back. I wanted to start off with my originalist and upgrade through this series, so that's what we're going to be aiming to do. 6 years of cards should give it something nifty. We have Garruk Unleashed. So they can make a Beast token. It comes into play with 4 loyalty counters. They are creating a Beast token, by the way. +1, up to 1 target creature, gains 3/3 and gains trample till end of turn. -2, 3/3 green beast creature token. Then if opponent controls more creatures than you, put a loyalty counter on Garruk Unleashed. -7, you get an emblem with. At the beginning of your end step, you may search your library for a creature card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Inniaz's turn, Azorius Signet coming down for them. Linval's Shield of Seagate coming down for the Inniaz player. Basically sacrifices to give hexproof or indestructibility. Kara Great Glass Spinner. Oh. So whenever something targets anything they control, that thing is countered for the first go, but if you can do it again, it's not countered. We have Rings of Brighthearth for that, but I feel like removing the creatures is going to play it a little bit small here. We should just probably blast them in the head as much as possible. What we do have to do that with is Spawn of Thraxus in the graveyard. Problem being we only have 4 mountains at the moment, so I only do 4 damage per activation with Feldon, which is still ahead on the mana, but could be better. We have an attack Toski from the Inniaz player off into us. Yep, I kind of figured. No blocks. We take 1. We are down to 32, up to 2 commander damage from Toski in particular. Over to Darien's turn. They only have 5 mana on the battlefield now, and Darien did die, so he will cost 8 to summon. So they are going to start lagging behind a bit here. We have an Embalmed Anointer Priest. Comes to our turn, we get Ratchet Bomb. I know people really don't like Ratchet Bomb, but I've always had a special place in my heart for it, so there it is. Let's go ahead and play it. That way we can get rid of some 3 mana CMC flyers there. Let's put a charge counter on it. It's also good for taking out particular enchantments as well. So let's do Junk Diver just so we have a blocker. Seems like a good idea. And we'll pass it off. That way if we get Sad Robot back, we get a land, we get card draw out of it, most likely because we have high market. And we won't take as much damage to the face from the flyers necessarily. I don't necessarily want the wheel right now either, because that'll force people to overcommit to the board, and I don't have a real good board wipe going yet. So Mages of the Wheel is not my favorite play at the moment. Toski's turn, we have Godzilla, Primeval Champion, also known as Titanoth Rex. You see, wizards? You see what you done did diddly, but you didn't done diddly did it. Sorry, that was in reference to Universes Beyond. It's not my favorite thing in the world. We have a Garruk activation. The beast is going to get swole. We have a beastly attack into the Inniaz player. That works for me. They do not block. Damage is good. Inniaz down to 25. Over to the Inniaz player. Land into play. Let's see what they'll do with the turn. They have been quite dominant so far this game. I'm hoping to kibosh that eventually. But admittedly, the deck with its removal is a little bit lackluster nowadays. So we'll have to see. Warden of Evil's Isle. More cost reduction, rather, for flying creatures. We have an attack with Toski. It's off into us. I mean, yeah, we'll probably just block it regardless. Linval on the attack. Kara Great Glass Spinner also on the attack. Alright, so the 2 flyers are going straight off into Toski's, well, the players for Toski's head. We'll go ahead and block. Get back the Sad Robot. The fact that they have Toski to help them draw cards with evasive flyers, that's pretty good luck there. Plus that switch off their commander. Chef Kiss, really. Alright, we have some triggers. Let's go ahead and put it on the stack and get back the Sad Robot. More lands in Feldon is always good. Pulling them out of the deck is even better. Damage is good otherwise against the Toski player, down to 26. Didn't bother to take out the Garruk, but they have time on that. Bygone Bishop into play for the Inniaz player. Whenever you cast a creature spell that can convert mana cost 3 or less, investigate. So there's some more card draw for him. Kenyani Sunwing. So our stuff will come into play tap. That's a sad face. On the bright side, all of their flyers right now cost 3 mana, so if we can get Ratchet Bomb up to where we need it to go, that's pretty good. Favorable wins, it's an anthem for flyers. Over to the Darien player, hoping they have some kind of board wipe, but my gut feeling is that they don't. I would be surprised if they do, though. Catapult Master. Tap 5 untap soldiers you control, exile target creature. What's the flavor text on that one? There's no I in team, but there's a we in weapon. I think that's the card. Comes our turn, we get Burner Start. Like I said, more lands are always good. Let's go ahead and put a charge counter on the Ratchet Bomb. We do have to find a way to get rid of Linvala. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to necessarily have a way to do that. So it is a bit of a sad face there. Let's go ahead and play the Sad Robot. He'll come to play. We get a basic land card from our deck to the battlefield. Let's grab any mountain we choose. And then let's go ahead and play the Magus of the Wheel, perhaps. If we can activate it and get some removal for Lavinia without them holding up mana, it could be good. If we can find that sweet spot in the timing. Alright, that'll do it. Let's pass it off to our opponents. Over to Toski, we have a Swarm Yard into play. Return the Wild Speaker, draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. Their largest creature happens to be an 11/11, a dinosaur beast. So the only thing that would really work right now to at least get Linvala to be popped would be Azuri's Predation that I'm aware of. However, if they also have a Ola's Dust would work, or if they're running Ugin for some reason. The room did say casual, I did join the room, so my expectations is not necessarily an Ugin. Maybe an Ola's Dust. We have Ball Get Recovery. They're going to get back the Boom Pile. That's fine with me. Hopefully they can win the flip immediately and boom everything away. Sad Robot dying would be fine. Don't really care about losing the Magus so much. Probably play Feldon the next turn if it does go off, would be fantastic. Also, I just love Boom Pile. Coin flip. Let's see what happens. Garrick Unleash is going to give 3/3 and trample to the Titanoth Rex. We have a swinging with both the Beast and the Titanoth Rex off into Inniaz player. That works for me, of course. We have a block with the Sunwing off against the Beast token. No damage will get through there. Damage is good otherwise, no other blocks. The Inniaz player is down to 11. And we have a Boom Pile activation. Let's see if they win the flip. Linvala, Shield of Seagate, is going to make their stuff indestructible or hexproof till the turn. I'm assuming indestructible. Unfortunately, if they do win the flip now, we lose Ratchet Bomb and any way to clear out all of those flyers. Boom Pile does not go off. To the cleanup step, Toski player will have to discard 5 cards. Let's see what they're going to be. We have Whisper Silk Cloak of Forest, Reclaim the Waste, Glowstone Recluse, and another Forest. Over to Inniaz's turn. 2 cards in hand after the draw and a land play. Inniaz, the Gale Force coming down. Inniaz on the attack, and the Gale Force will trigger. That's unfortunate. I wonder what they'll get rid of this time. We have a Fog. Nice. Toski being a super team player right there. To be fair, they all might be going at Toski, but I'll take the Fog regardless. So let's have this stack resolve and see where everything is going. They do still get to activate their commander, or resolve their commander's triggered ability, rather. Let's see what they're going to switch around. I imagine we're probably going to end up losing the Ratchet Bomb, perhaps. Maybe even the Magus, just so we don't wield the thing. Sad Robot is kind of like a meh. Catapult Master will probably come to us. They'll obviously take the Titanoth Rex, is my feeling on it. They could potentially also take the Boom Pile. One way or another, they're going to lose a lot of flyers next turn without some kind of counter magic or destroying a Ratchet Bomb. Don't have to see how that happens. Or sorry, in 2 turns. We do have to tap it to add the counter and tap to activate the sacrifice ability. Adding the land in here, I forget what it's called. That's kind of like a Ratchet Bomb, might be the better thing because it starts with a counter. Yeah, we get Catapult Master Ratchet Bomb off over, so they get Boom Pile and Ratchet Bomb. You know, I'm actually fine with that on Toski's side. Let's see, and they get a Clue token over on Darien's side, so they could draw a card. That's nice. The attacks, let's see, they were all going at Toski? Yep. So the Fog was very much warranted. No damage gets through, everything's fogged. Second main phase for Inniaz, let's see what they do with it. They do have 4 mana available. Lightning Greaves. Okay. So no target removal there. We do have 5 mountains into play. We could get down Feldon and eventually activate for Spawn of Thraxes, but not if they're able to switch our stuff every turn. Lightning Greaves is being equipped to the Gale Force. They did have to do it a second time. I just want to point that out because it costs 0. But yeah, if they target their own stuff with Cure Great Glass Spinner on the battlefield, it does counter that first activation for the Greaves. So in case you build with the Great Glass Spinner, just know that for your reference. Equip costs will essentially be doubled. Over to Darien's turn. They really haven't played much since their Maroks got blown up. Again, their commander cost 8, they're still stuck at 5 lands. I'm hoping they can get back into the game a bit. They do sacrifice the Clue to draw a card. There's a land into play, so that's good. Comes our turn, we get Heretic's Punishment. There could be a way to help us close out the game. Probably going to play it. I do want to leave 2 mana up for the Mages of the Wheel, though. So we are like 1 mana short on also activating the punishment. That's a bit tight. So I think let's go ahead instead and play the Burnished Heart and keep up a bunch of mana otherwise. And then I think at that rate we'll just pass it off, see if the Boom Call goes off and respond with maybe the Burnished Heart and maybe the Mages. I don't think I want to do the Mages as long as Inniaz can have all their stuff destroyed. That would be fantastic. Then they only have 1 card in hand and they're only at 11 life. Slap down the Heretic's Punishment and start burning people out. It is kind of random, but it does mill us, so Feldon can grab some cards. We have a Boom Pile activation right away, so we won't have a chance to respond after they flip the coin. Let's go ahead and activate our Burnished Heart. It gets sacrificed. We'll go ahead and get some lands out of our deck. 2 mountains into play, works for me. Our Spawn of Thraxes potential has gone up to 7 damage. Ooh, Boom Pile fails to go off. Sad face. We have Apex Devastator out of Toski. I hope this works out for him. I mean, could potentially still be an Ola's Dust. Could still be a Nugan. I don't know what level of casual this is. Although this game seems pretty chill. And it is being very strong here. But I haven't seen anything that I would consider not casual out of the deck. Let's resolve some triggers. I do really like this card. I just don't know why it had to be like, you know, let's just staple Cascade on it a bunch of times and call it a creature. Thwart the enemy. Prevent all damage that would be dealt by this turn by creatures your opponents control. That's a bit of a whiff. Suspicious Bookcase. One of my personal favorite cards just because it's a suspicious bookcase. Jariel Monwovi Recluse. I think I said all of that right. Probably not, though. We covered her back on the channel a bit ago when it was the core set. Not a bad mono green commander. Heraldic Banner. So a mana rock, and it gives the creatures of a chosen color 1/0. So they hit a lot of kind of just whiffing on that Cascade. That's too bad. We have a Crimson Grip onto the favorable winds. I can live with that. I just do want to point out again specifically that Cura only protects the creatures. Garruk Unleash, giving 3/3 and trample to a creature till end of turn just to boost its loyalty count. Over to Inniaz's turn. Land into play, 1 card in hand. Luckily, their flyers aren't very large, but they do contain in their field the Titanoth Rex, which isn't my favorite. They also can still steal some of our stuff. If they switch the Mages around, I don't actually care. They will get a bunch of card draw off Toski, but I'm really more entertaining the idea of that Heretic's Punishment to try to close out the game against them. We'll have to see. We also still probably have 1 more chance at Boom Pile unless they just swing everything into Toski, which isn't going to be good for us otherwise. Alright, let's see where everything's going. Yep, Toski's taking their own Titanoth Rex. Kinda figured that was going down. Toski taking 3 more flyers. Alright, so the Titanoth Rex and the flyers all going off into Toski. Inniaz will trigger, and that will resolve before it blocks. And I do not think I want to do anything with the Mages, so we'll just leave that mana sitting there. Don't know where Toski's going just yet. I imagine it's off into the Toski player so it can't be blocked. Extra card draw is always good. The Darien player did say they'd love a new hand. I was chatting with them in chat. Unfortunately, I don't want to empower the Inniaz player and give them more resources. They're already ahead in the game, and that's the problem with wheel effects. If we were in a better position, if we had gotten some more of the self-mill or something, maybe I would have done it. But we didn't get to keep Feldon on the battlefield, so we're a little bit behind with abusing that kind of thing, especially with the Rings of Bright Hearth, so I don't really look forward to necessarily doing it. I do hope they don't take our sad robot, though. I do want to sacrifice it to the high market to draw a card at some point, but we'll see how things go. Magus gets the switch. They take the Boom Pile, which is unfortunate. I do hope that Toski adds a counter to the Ratchet Bomb before their turn comes back around to destroy the majority of the flyers. We end up getting the Anointed Priest, so that's interesting, I guess. Yep, so it is a full swing from Inniaz off into the Toski player. They do have a blocker now, though. They could absorb some of the trample damage, so they'd be net 2 damage absorbed. They are absorbing some of the trample damage, so they will survive. I'm just hoping they activate that Ratchet Bomb, get the extra counter on it, and then it comes to untap for them and they can activate it. That should be good. Mages of the Wheel is down and dead. We have a number of triggers for the Inniaz player off their Toski that they stole. Damage is good, by the way. Down to 9 for the Toski player. So they do survive. 7 cards in the Inniaz's hand now. Second main phase, all of their mana available. Let's see what they're doing with it. We have a Mole Drifter. They will draw some more cards. To the cleanup step, Inniaz does have to discard 1 card. Let's see what it is. Hopefully gives us an idea about something. Nope, it's just the plains. Over to Darien's turn. 7 cards in hand after the draw. 6 lands in play, plus an Azorius Signet given to them by the Inniaz player, so they do have 7 mana available. We have Baird, Steward of Argive, so a little bit of pillow fort for them. Comes our turn. We get Hanweir Battlements. Let's go ahead and play it. Does give a creature haste. So we do have 7 mountains in play, so we could get down Feldon, give it haste, and activate for a Spawn of Thraxes trigger. Get our opponent down to 4. They do have 2 blockers. Could attack with everything. They block the biggest ones. We get them down to 3. Toski finishes them off potentially. They do have untapped mana and 7 cards in hand though, so that is somewhat problematic. Let's try for our commander. I imagine there's going to be some counter magic though. No counter magic, okay. And it does come into play tapped. Forgot about that, so no activations there. Let's get down to Heretic's Punishment. That'll give us 2 paths to victory they'd have to deal with at a time. I think that's good if we just kind of flood the field with effects. With Heretic's Punishment now, we can mill ourselves for Feldon. Oh, looks like we have some counter magic. Yep, straight up counter spell, too bad. Could have dealt damage equal to the highest CMC. I do run a lot of 6 drops in the deck, so 4 mana for 6 damage plus some for reanimation isn't too bad. Alright, we'll pass it off there. We do have High Market up for the Sad Robot, just in case we want to draw a card. Most likely, we will survive the next turn. I'm just hoping Toski activates that Ratchet Bomb before it rolls over. I wouldn't mind that at all, even if Feldon does die again, just to get rid of all those flyers. Might not be the best decision, though, only because Inniaz has a full hand again. Oh, that'll work. They activate Suspicious Bookcase, and Generous Gift in response to destroy the, was this the Apex Devastator? I always want to say Predator. So Suspicious Bookcase was going to make it unblockable. Unfortunate. Snakeskin Veil. 1/1 counter target creature gains hexproof till end of turn in response. Nice. The Apex Devastator is now a 12/12. It cannot be destroyed because of the hexproof, so the spell should fizzle. I believe if it was given indestructible, though, they'd still get the elephant token. Not sure on that, but I think that's how that works out. It'll also become unblockable. So Inniaz could be out of the game. I mean, they could swing somewhere else, but I doubt it. Yep, swing off into Inniaz. Alright, let's see if it goes through. They could still have like a Holy Day effect. Inniaz goes down. Good game to the Inniaz player. They had control over that game for a very long time. Okay, so now we do have to deal with our opponent. Colossification. Okay. Oh, hold on. We have a response out of Darien? Path to Exile. Okay, so Toski is getting exiled. That's better than having it stolen at this point. They'll get a land for it. But Colossification. Enchant a creature. When there's the battlefield, tap enchant a creature. It gets +20/+20. Yeah, +1/1. That equals lethal damage for a commander. Alright, so no giant squirrel to threaten us. 3 cards in hand for the Toski player. 9 life. They are activating their Planeswalker. So 1 target creature gets 5/5 and trample until the end of the turn. Luckily, it's the second main phase. Garrick is getting close to his ultimate, though, and that's not something I will particularly enjoy. They're putting a charge counter on Ratchet Bomb. That works for me. I'm thinking next turn, Rings of Bright Hearth, activate Feldon, get the Spawn of Thraxes, and just kind of go to town with it, copying the ability with Rings of Bright Hearth. Over to Darien's turn. Let's see what they can do with the turn. They do have 6 cards in hand. They do still have 6 mana. Mirror Entity. Usually a pretty good card if you have a field full of creatures. I guess at this point it's just a blocker. It does look like they're playing Soldier Tribal though. At end of turn, we'll go ahead, well, second main phase it looks like anyway. We'll sacrifice the Sad Robot to draw a card. We get Mirror Battlesphere. That's one of the better cards in the deck. And then we get Panharmonicon. Oh, there's just not enough mana for this kind of glory. We're 1 mana short, which is something that always happens to me in a Feldon deck. Alright, so let's go with the original plan. Let's do the Rings of Bright Hearth. And then we'll activate Feldon. which can be done at instant speed, mind you. We will respond by filling the 2 mana for the Rings of Bright Hearth. We will go ahead and pay for it. We will choose the same targets, which in this case is Spawn of Thraxes. We'll gain 1 life because it is a token, and we do have the Embalmed Anointed Priest at the moment. Let's go ahead and deal 7 damage to the Toski player. We have a few more triggers, another life to gain, and another spawn trigger. I'm going to send it at Darien. I'm hoping that they don't have some kind of free fog over there at Toski's side, but we'll see because we can just attack them with the dragon. Well, let's go to combat. The tokens do have haste. 1 at each of our opponents. We will pay 1 to declare an attacker. We have Teferi's protection out of the Darien player. They will take no more damage this turn. Sad face. And the Toski player goes down after a very well fought battle, an epic struggle. Alright, nothing else happens. Let's go ahead and sacrifice 1 of our tokens at the end of the turn. Well, the second main phase, I guess. We do not have mana to pay for the Rings of Bright Hearth activation. That's fine. But the tokens, like I was going to say, are going to get sacrificed anyway. Might as well get something out of it. End of turn. The tokens go bye-bye. Over to Darien's turn, 5 cards in hand. Still the 6 mana on the battlefield. I'm hoping they don't concede, but with the Panharmonicon we can get down next turn, and a Feldon activation copied, we can do 28 damage to them just by the spawn triggers alone. Spear of Heliod. Bit of a rattlesnake there. You do have to activate it though. I kind of wish it was a kind of a passive effect, but that wouldn't have jived with the rest of the cycle. Veteran Swordsmith, another soldier. It's also a soldier lord of sorts. Gives them 1-0. We have an attack, Mirror Entity and Bard. Let's go to block. I do want to get rid of the Mirror Entity just in case. Creatures are down. We take 4 damage from the Baird. Comes our turn, we get Inventor Sphere. Let's go ahead and play it. We only have 2 artifacts down though, so bit of a sad face. Until we play, that is, the Panharmonicon. And they give it up there. Good game to our opponent. Thanks for sticking it out, Darien player. It was a pretty slow going for you there after that first board wipe, so I totally feel how that might be quit-worthy. But I appreciate you sticking it around. I honestly don't know who to give it to. Inniaz was a really strong player. That ability, I never was able to use it very effectively, but that Toski being stolen and giving it to their flyers for the evasion on the card draw, very, very good. Of course, there's other things that do that. Coastal Piracy, Biden of Thassa. Darien stuck it out through the whole game. They stayed around and stuff, even though they couldn't really play anything, and I appreciate that, just to see if they could possibly pull it out. The Toski player gave up a really good fight, so I'm leaning really head on giving it to Toski, so I guess I'm going to be doing that. Alright, so it looks like the Toski player got 3 points, we got 1, the Darien player got 1. Alright, cool. Let's go ahead and take a look at the deck, and I'll explain some stuff along the way, and why the deck is the way it is. Here's the deck. Welcome to Feldon's Sad Robots, or Architect of Sad Robots, as I like to call it back in the day. So yeah, this deck is almost card for card. Again, minus the Flamekin Village to give haste. In was the high market. Otherwise, this deck is card for card. The Commander deck I used to have 5 or 6 years ago, according to the page I had on tappedout.net. And I know I upgraded it a little bit after that before I dismantled it, because I'm pretty sure there's a Thopter assembly in here, but I wanted it to go as accurate as possible, and my memory is a bit fuzzy that far back. So, looking over the deck, you can see we have a lot of 6 drops, and that's mostly because they have large area of the battlefield effects, a lot of them. We also have just some old stuff in here, like Warseeker Stone, you know, because back then that's kind of what Mono Red had. Mono Red has gotten a lot of impulsive draw these days. Maybe not the best for this deck, but it's there, so maybe I'll try that out as I upgrade the deck. We have a lot of 7 drops, a couple of decent 5 drops. We do have Mindcall Shaman, which is kind of like a weird kind of card in here, because it searches somebody's hand for an instant sorcery and then we can steal it. But it's an interesting effect, and one time I almost went infinite on, like, I don't know, like turn 4 or 5 by stealing somebody else's thing and was able to copy it over and over. It was kind of interesting. Other than that, we have Ingot Chewer to destroy stuff, Heretic's Punishment for Self-Mill and Burn, and Hoarding Dragon, so those are all pretty much utility in the 5 slot there. Then we have some older stuff. Remember, back 5 or 6 years ago, I know it's a long time sometimes in Magic, there was no Arcane Signet. So that's not even in here at all. It wasn't a consideration back then. It didn't exist. Unstable Obelisk we have in here for enchantment removal. There weren't any Ugins back then, you know. when Feldon was there. I think, well, actually, maybe the Spirit Dragon. Ola's Dust was there, but it was so expensive I couldn't afford it at the time. We also have Bosch Iron Golem for more throwing damage, Begalden Hellkite for more throwing damage. The deck was basically about throwing damage. It was like mono red burn in EDH, and it could do fairly well. The problem is people eventually catch on that you can do like 20, 28, 36 damage to somebody a turn. Gets a little bit hairy. Also have things like Indomitable Creativity. That was probably like the last thing I added. That and Combustible Gear Hulk before I dismantled the deck. This can be very good if you can get those mirror tokens down, or like I said, the Thopter tokens. Anyway, don't want to reminisce too much. I'm looking forward to updating this deck for this series. Like I said, it's almost card for card exactly how it was 5 or 6 years ago. And as you can see, if Feldon can get going, it can start doing an absolute ton of damage. So I'm looking forward to maybe taking out the stuff like Lore Seeker Stone, adding in new lands like War Room, so I have extra draw and stuff like that, and tweaking the deck to make it even better and deal possibly even more damage. If you saw any cards that inspired you to buy anything, sealed product that you want to purchase, or sleeves to protect all that stuff, please consider using the TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. It helps out the channel and doesn't cost you anything extra. And if you want to buy Feldon, he got reprinted on that time shifted sheet as an old frame card. Anyway, on to the next game of Feldon, where I will hopefully have a lot of new and interesting things to do. Because 6 years of cards with that kind of power creep, yeah, there should be some jewels in there. Although I will not be using Jeweled Lotus, that is very bad for Feldon. And I'm against Jeweled Lotus. But anyway, see you for the next video for Feldon in this series. Until then, stay safe, and if you do get to play Commander out in the world, help others stay safe as well.